Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2019 AWS Public Sector Summit ASEAN in Singapore. My name is Meredith Huddy. I'll be one of your room hosts for today. I have a few housekeeping items before we get started. So the first thing, the emergency exit will be these doors over to my right. If you need to use the bathroom, you can just go down the hall to the left. And please make sure your phones are on silent. If you have not yet already, you can download the app and you can schedule your day that way. And then you can provide your feedback at the end of each session. Please know that the sessions are recorded. And if you would like a copy of the content, what you can do is scan your badge at the exit on the devices and you'll be sent that information. And at this time, I would like to welcome to the stage Ankush Chowdhury from AWS, presenting on threat detection using artificial intelligence.
All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome. So I've got two parts to the session today. The first part, I'll run through the solution overview, the architecture, and next we'll move into a demo where we'll take you through what the solution actually looks like. So before I get started, a bit of a background on how this solution came into what it is. So it's been a great one and a half year journey building this solution, and it's a great example of the working backwards culture at Amazon. So where we work with our customers, understand the problems, understand the challenges they're facing, and try and work out a solution. So what happened when we were building this solution is we realized that it's not just one customer alone who has challenges with regards to that. We have many other customers. We have managed security service providers who are providing security operations services to our customers who also face similar challenges. So we'll start with giving a little bit of background on what problem we were solving, right? And it's pretty high level, and I'll zoom into a more low-level problem, getting right into the point on what led to building this solution. So these are common set of security challenges we all face, right? The technology is evolving. We see advanced threats. We need to know a mechanism on how we manage that. We do have solutions, capabilities, a bunch of them. Security as fragmented industry as it is. And compliance is an issue, right? We see visibility is limited, and it has been through doing I don't know how many POCs we did while we were building the solution with different customers. We found out the lack of visibility, the lack of logging, which would not give the customers the ability to manage in order to react to incidents and security threats. And automation, right? So if you're sitting in an on-prem environment, it's difficult to do automation. You move on to the cloud, definitely we leverage the automation as well. Then we go a level deeper. Then we look into security operations. And we had discussions with multiple managed service providers, multiple customers. And we got a very consistent feedback coming in. So what we have right now are two different types of solutions which give us a consolidated view from a threat detection perspective, right? Two solutions which essentially are used in your security operations. One is your SIEM, the traditional security information and event management tools. And there has been a little bit evolution to those ones where we now see SOAR technologies, as in security orchestration and automation response. But still we have issues, right? If you look at the SIEM solutions, and this is exactly what our customers were facing issues with, is you cannot scale the way that solution works, right? It's not designed for the cloud. There is always a trade-off. The trade-off is the logging capability it has, the licensing model it has, the architecture it has. So those who would have worked with SIEM would know they work on an event per second. That means you have to do a trade-off between how many event per seconds you can afford versus the visibility you need, right? It's a massive issue. And we wanted to build a solution which essentially removes those issues, right? We should not have architectural constraints. We should not have antiquated licensing models. The next, we looked at, again, the SIEM-based solutions, which are heavily based on rules, right? You have to write rules after rules. And in fact, you now have use case libraries and rules libraries for SIEM-based tools. Not scalable, very high-touch consulting solution. And not just that, the 6 to 7 months it takes an SIM solution to be set up and built, you have to go and rewrite the rules. You have to optimize the rules, right? Again, very, very challenging. Uh, we heard from our managed security service providers, and they said that every time they are doing a new threat detection, SIM-based solution, or SOAR-based solution, it's a brand new install, right? They have to start doing the entire project management. They have to scale it out, build it out, architect it, have the right people, and that comes to our next problem. People is also an issue, right? How many skilled people do we have sitting in a SOC as threat analysts, right? So that's another issue that we looked at. So looking at all of these concerns, we said, all right, we need to build a solution where we need to leverage the cloud, but at the same time, we have customers who are looking at hybrid solutions, right? So if you look at threat detection solutions we have currently on cloud, right? GuardDuty, very much a great tool for our customers to give them the visibility from a threat landscape perspective, but is limited to the cloud. So we wanted to extend the capability. So with this solution, we are not only doing threat detection on the cloud, but also on-premise. Right? So some of the key features, and I'm going to talk about a little bit more about them. So it is a multi-tenanted environment. So it is a solution. So it sits outside of the console. So you have to deploy it. And I'll show you the demo. It'll make much more sense on what it is. So we heard from the customers and MSSPs, we need a solution where the customer experience is fantastic, right? Onboarding has to be great. And we made sure when we built the solution that you can navigate onto the admin panel and simply add a customer, right? As easy as that. It takes under 5 minutes to add a customer. It has to be scalable, right? SIM-based solutions or SOAR-based solutions, not designed for the cloud. You need to architect how many logs will I be ingesting, what kind of storage do I need, what kind of licensing do I need. We don't have any such constraints. It's an entire serverless architecture. It's scalable. You can start as small as 1 gig and can go into petabyte scale. It has advanced analytics. It has got artificial intelligence built into it. So we have multiple components of artificial intelligence. We are using neural networks. We're using deep learning. We are using statistical-based models. We are using graph databases. So depending on the threat type, we had different kind of models that are applied. So there are two parts to threat detection that we are looking at. So we are focused on indicators of compromise. That's one part. And I'll show you the dashboard of what indicators of compromise looks like. This is pretty simple that you see today, right? So you have the top list of indicators of compromise. You have your log events and flow data that is coming from your environment. You simply take all of that and you match it, right? And then you get the findings. So we have 5 different kind of findings that we do in IOCs. One is your bad IPs, the IP reputation. The second one is for the websites. Third one is malware. Fourth is vulnerabilities, and the fifth one is bad actors, which essentially is a combination of both IPs and website data. The other thing that I was talking about that we are addressing customer challenges, right? So you have no rules to write. So in an SIEM base where you have to write rules after rules, in this, you basically have the analytics running at the back end. You have deep learning working at the back end. You don't have to write rules. There are no licensing models. Compute and storage is what is required. And the best part is on how we're doing the detections, right? So we have built using the cyber kill chain, the 7 steps that we have in cyber kill chain. And we have also done mappings of the kill chain at the back end with the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And what that has given us that we can not only predict threats that are currently known, right? So if you look at how privilege escalation is done right now, there are 20 different techniques that you can do privilege escalation. How do you do credential access? Another 18 or 20 different ways on how you can do. But what happens if there is a 21st way? What happens if there is a new technique that gets comes in which we have not thought about? So this is where the deep learning comes in and is able to detect those threats and provide you the indicators of attack. That is the second part that we're looking at. That the first component tells us a simple match with the logs, and the second component using deep learning tells us that we will be able to detect indicators of attack, right? So what is an indicator of attack versus what is indicators of compromise? So compromise, as we know, well, thing has gone wrong. It has already happened. My malware is sitting on my machine. I am detecting it. But what about if something is about to happen? Right? We know how attackers operate. We know they go from stage 1 to stage 7, and they have to be successful at every stage. What if we can get visibility from an attack timeline perspective and give you the visibility to take action before something goes wrong? Now, that's what the solution is all about. This is a high-level architecture. It uses all AWS native capabilities, which is fantastic. So, and as I said, we are not limited to the cloud. You can bring any log type from any environment, whether it is your on-premise data center, whether it is your satellite office, whether it is a third-party cloud provider, you can bring the data in. What we were also able to do, which is a good outcome when you work on a solution like that, is we realized one more issue, right? When you have different logs coming in, they are different format. You've got raw logs coming in. You need to convert them into a structured format. We ended up writing a machine learning-based log parser. And we have built that into the dashboard. So you can simply bring in any log type, and the ML will be able to transform that without you having to write custom parsers. So the orange chunk that we have in the middle is essentially where we are doing all of the log parsing. We are essentially structuring the data. It's a multi-tenanted solution, so we have multiple layers of abstraction and isolation built for different customers. We are enriching the data. So the enrichment is not just limited to simply bringing in a threat intelligence feed. You can do enrichment from your vulnerability scan data that is coming. If you're using a network scanner, such as an Nmap, you can scan your environment using Nmap. Which will give you what IPs that I'm running, what hosts I'm running, what services they are running, ports that are open, applications running. It will give you a baseline. It will help you enrich the data. And when we do the fact finding and we do the match, we are able to detect and have a better context on what is going on. The blue box in the center is all AI. Now that's where we are doing indicators of attack. This will give visibility to you on a dashboard on how your attacks are moving in your environment. If you have a recon, you'll be able to see recon. Is someone doing an OS fingerprint? Is someone doing a port scan on a certain port number that I need to be aware of? Now, what is really good about that compared to when we look at an IOC, an indicator of compromise versus an IOA, is you may have a scan that is coming from a bad IP, so my IOC can simply pick it up. But what if my scan is coming from a non-blacklisted IP, right? So this is where the deep learning comes in, and it gives us more context and visibility that we need to look into. The architecture is fairly open, so we have a dashboard, we have multiple APIs, so if you want to build add-ons, modules, plugins to it, you can build onto it. So it essentially comes with 4 different core modules. I'll share this core module. So these are the 4 core modules that are available when you deploy the solution. So essentially, we have the data collection. So there's a data pipeline that is built in from the cloud or from your on-prem data center into the cloud. We have a data lake. In fact, we have multiple data lakes coming into a multi-tenant solution, and AI and the dashboard components, right? So some key functions and some important learnings while we're building the solution. When we're doing log collection in an on-prem environment, we saw and we heard from every customer that they don't want another agent to be installed. Not another agent, right? We already have too many agents, so we are doing agentless collection. We are building secure data lake. If you want to go and encrypt everything in the data lake, you have the capability of everything that S3 has to offer, right? So Amazon S3 gives you lifecycle management. So if you want to retain your logs for a certain period of time, you can do that. If you want to encrypt them, you can do that. If you want to move them into an archive, you can do that. Again, deep learning-based findings. It's a multi-tenanted solution. The way multi-tenancy works is very interesting. If you are a managed security service provider, you can add more customers to it, which is great. If you're an enterprise customer who has multiple business units, you can add multiple business units. And if you're a government agency, and we have heard this from different government agencies who want to run a top-level mothership of a SOC, and then they want to give every agency their own individual access to the dashboard, yes, you can do that. We have integrations with ticketing systems. So again, API-based, you can plug in ServiceNow, you can plug in Remedy, you can plug in SIM-based workflow tools, which basically do the incident response for you. So all of those are available. And again, the larger vision, and I'll talk about it towards the end, the larger vision is that how do we get more and more partnerships from our MSSPs, from our customers, from our technology partners to come and build integrations. Managing your operations center is fairly straightforward. You can use either your existing in-house resources, or if you're using a third-party MSSP, you can definitely use your MSSP to manage that as well. Um, Key benefits for the enterprises, right? So we have reporting built into the tool. So if you have a third-party MSSP where you have SLAs, you can look at the time when the incident was open, and you can run the report on when the incident was resolved. You can look at high, medium, low findings. It gives you reports from that perspective as well. But the best thing, and I think it applies both to the customers and MSSPs, is how we are reducing the amount of alerts that are coming in. And we have, again, built-in mechanism that I'll show you in the demo on how you can see the results based on the IOCs and IOA, how you can suppress them, how you can use them to train the model as well. Again, key benefits for MSSPs, multi-tenancy, as I talked about it. It really reduces the whole setup that I was talking about, right? We took that feedback seriously from our MSSPs that every time I add a new customer, it should not be a massive uplift. So I will show you through the demo on what that really looks like. And the deployment, right? We've got 3 easy steps. So currently we're using a CloudFormation template. So you can simply deploy using a CFT, which would take anywhere between 5+ minutes to install. Post that, the only 2 things that you need to configure in your CloudFormation is your admin username and password that you need to set up for the interface to log in. And the next one is you need to lock down it to an IP address from where you will be accessing it, so your S3 is not open to the public. Logging on the cloud, we have a template. So if you are already on AWS, you can simply run a script which will send the logs into this platform. And if you are on-premise, then we have storage gateway that needs to be configured. As I said, we are doing agentless collection. So with this, I'll get onto the demo. I'll show you what it looks like. All right. So this is the first screen that you essentially would see when you install. And then you have an admin user that's created. We do have a 2FA. We just disabled that for the demo purposes, but there's a 2FA support on it. All right, so I'm going to walk you through from the user's perspective first, and then take you through on how you can add accounts. So we have 4 different type of users that we have added, right? We have the admin, which I'm currently logged in as an admin. So admin is like a root user. You can essentially do anything and everything from the account management perspective. The next one, we have a SOC manager. So essentially, the concept of SOC manager is that when you create accounts, you can assign a SOC manager to it. We put a soft limit of about 5 SOC managers that can be assigned to an account. Just for the security sake, if one SOC manager decides and deletes everything, then the damage is limited. But we do have a delete protection at the back end, so even if it's deleted on the interface, it basically stays there for 30 days. The security analyst, which is, and I'll show you through the dashboard, where you can assign customers and you can assign incidents to an analyst. So an analyst will see when they log in their own queue with their own customers. So depending if it's a service provider or it's yourself managing your security operations, you can have your analyst queues broken down into which accounts they are managing. And the last one is what we call as a non-admin role, is essentially where it's a read-only access where we can expose the dashboard to whether it's customers or internal business units that you want to give it to, who can look at the dashboard and run the reportings, right? It's basically a read-only view. All right, let's look at the account. So I already have an account added. We had to get the data into it for the purpose of demo. It's there. But if you need to add a new account, it is as easy as simply going in here. I'll just add Acme to. Account number is optional. As I said, it supports both on-prem and cloud. So even if you are not on AWS, you can still use it. Account number is not mandatory. So I'll just put some select anything basically, just for the sake of it. So the idea behind having primary and secondary contacts is so that for an analyst who is trying to contact if there is an incident, has an escalation path. So again, I'll just put some numbers in here. So what this is doing at the back end, oops, all right. All right, pardon me. It has a logic built into it. Let's do this. Works much better. All right. So it's essentially building the entire data pipeline at the back end. So that's what it is doing. So it is provisioning S3 buckets. It is creating Lambda jobs. It uses Cognito for user management. It's got a few other scripts that essentially is running and building the infrastructure. So it takes about anywhere between 5 to 7 minutes to have this up and running. If you see, we are displaying this S3 path. So essentially, this is the S3 bucket which we provide to the customer where you need to send your logs into. So you can simply push your logs into this one. And once the logs are in the bucket, you will need to go into the threat feeds. So we have integration with 2, which is done straight through the panel. We're using Recorded Future as one of the partners. Cyber is another partner. If you're using more than 2 threat intelligence providers, you will need a platform that has the capability to ingest more than 2 feeds. So Cyber essentially is one of them. We are not limited by who you can use. So just for the purpose of first integration with the partner, we have Recorded Future. Whether you're using CrowdStrike, Proofpoint, or your own in-house, different CERT organizations do have their own threat intelligence. So you can use any of those and bring it in. So once you do the integration with the threat intelligence, again, driven through. So we've already done that, so I won't repeat that. What you will see is that the dashboard will appear. So I'll show you the dashboard. Just a few more things in here. So you can assign SOC managers in here. So you can basically say who you want to assign it to. You can assign, and you can activate, deactivate as well. So again, there was a request from our MSSPs that I should have the capability to activate or deactivate an account if I need to. And some housekeeping things, like you can edit the account, you can change the contact names, etc. Let's have a look at the dashboard. So I'll just go here, making sure you all can see. OK, all right. So we made it very functional. We made it functional from a perspective of a security analyst. We didn't want to have, if you look at an ELK-based dashboard, right, you have the world map, you have graphs, you have multiple other things which are distractors. We wanted to keep it fairly simple. We wanted to make sure that we show what the actual incident is. We can show what type of finding it is, what kind of severity it is. So severity is coming from the threat intelligence feed. And what you can do, right from here, you can essentially go and assign it to one of the SOC analysts. So I'll just go and say I'll just assign to myself. And what you will see that the incidents, once they are assigned to a SOC analyst, they will appear in their own queues when they log in. So you can change the status from, we have different statuses that you can change. You can go, open, resolved, in progress, on hold, depending on where the incident is with regards to it. You can view the intelligence from the I button. I'll show you that. So, if you go in here, you can filter. They are the 2 high that I have. So this intelligence is again coming from the threat intelligence provider. So it'll give you what is the evidence related to it, and it'll give you the details of different type of evidence, and will also give you the criticality. It will also give you the log line that has matched, right? So depending on who you use for your threat feeds, you also have an option where you can do a second pull, which essentially says, hey, I want options with regards to A, give me more intelligence, or give me recommendations on how do I fix it, right? So we have also built in few things which you can suppress a finding. And the reason you want to do is it may be a false positive, right? One example I typically see is there is a tool called TeamViewer, which many organizations use. Typically, TeamViewer is also seen as a backdoor. So you will see that come up in your threat feed saying, hey, you got a backdoor in your environment. So if you want to go and suppress it, you can suppress it. We are also using the suppression to train the model at the back end. So it's what we call as a feedback-based learning coming from the security analyst, where they can label the threat type and say, hey, don't flag it again. You have the option to, when you do that, you basically provide comments. So you can say, why I'm making it a false positive. So, other people looking at it have the visibility. You can go and create a ticket from here if you want to. Right? So you can do as simple as send out an email. You can do an API based where I was talking about you can have Remedy or you can have ServiceNow integrations built into it. It's completely open with regards to APIs. You can plug in anything that you want to. We have also have the capability for you to integrate GuardDuty findings. So you can simply import your GuardDuty findings into it, and they will display as well. If you are with a third-party cloud provider, you can bring in their findings as well, and you can add them to the same dashboard. Right? So it again gives you a single view, whether it's on-prem, whether it's GuardDuty, whether it's another cloud provider, whether it's AWS, all coming onto a single dashboard. And the same level of capability is available. All of these are GuardDuty findings. The severity is coming from GuardDuty, intelligence is coming from GuardDuty. So that's another option to have, again, consolidated view and do a basic level of incident management with regards to who it is assigned to and managing the status of where it is at. Next, I'll just move into just one more thing. So we are sticking to a very similar export structure that we have for GuardDuty. So right now you can export findings in GuardDuty in AFF format, which is the Amazon finding format. So we have the same ability in here. So if I go to analytics and I say, okay, I want these two findings, I want to export them, it essentially will open them up in a structured format in an AFF finding. So this is depending on the need and the requirement. You can essentially do this as well, right? All right, moving to deep learning, let's look at some of the interesting ones. So this is a very different dashboard. We'll have the look and feel, which is really similar, but if you can see on the top, we have an attack timeline. So what we have done is we've taken the cyber kill chain because it's easier to show us the navigation on a cyber kill chain, 7 easy steps. They're broken down into 2 parts. The first 2 stages are the pre-attack stages, which is the reconnaissance and weaponization. And the next 5 steps are what we call as the actual attack. So what we have done is the next 5 steps in the backend have a mapping to the MITRE attack, right? And when there is a trigger based on whether it's privilege escalation, execution, whether it's command and control, lateral movement, the logic behind this, which is essentially algorithms using deep learning or graph database in some cases, will trigger in and will show you with regards to the progression of the attack on how it is going on an attack timeline. So if you see, we've got a lot of findings on recon. So this is an actual account where we've been running the tests. So we typically see recon is noisy, right? We have a lot of hits and a lot of scans that usually happen. So it will give you the information on the threat type. Is it, it's an OS fingerprint, whether it's a port scan, what kind of machine it was on, and then again you can have the same capability. The only thing we are keeping an option open in here is compared to the IOCs that I earlier shared, which basically would give you intelligence. This one does not give you intelligence because this is a finding which may not exist, which may not be there in the intelligence at all. So in here, we are simply displaying the log formats and the type of attack it is. And the reason for that is that we want to provide a hook into how you want to do your incident response. So we are currently working with some technology partners who want to take the output of the finding from here and plug it into a tool. Right? And so that the incident handlers can then manage the threat. As it is an indicator of an attack, a compromise has not yet happened. It needs to be managed in a different way. So that's the reason we've kept it a little bit different on how the IOCs are managed. Same as with the exploitation. Yeah, we can see there are credential dumping happening. There is some privilege escalation that is happening, brute force happening. So all of this activity that is being captured, which is not coming from threat intelligence, it is not coming from any rules that are being matched. It is simply coming from an algorithm, right? And this solution, the way it scales is the more it learns, the more smarter it gets, as is with any neural network. And the model confidence rate in predicting the threats get better and better. All right, so we have reporting function as well. And I've talked about this auto log parser. I just wanted to show you that. So one of the outcomes that we had from the solution was log parsing, which is a nightmare. So anyone who's worked on any of the log management solutions or SIM solutions, you have to write your own specific adapters, or you have to write parsers. The way we wanted to do the solution is, as we always do in AWS, is that how can we automate everything? How can we ensure there is as less human intervention as possible? So we wrote, again, an ML-based parser, which can take log types, whether it is your IPS, whether it is VPC flow logs, whether it is host-based Linux or Windows events logs that are coming in. It will take the raw logs and it will convert them into a Parquet structured format or a CSV format, depending on what you want. So we have exposed the backend through an interface in the front so that you can simply copy paste your logs and you can go and submit, and it will tell you whether it can transform it or not. So we are at a stage where we now looking at more log types. So we're currently supporting about 15 that we have tested from different IPSs and different providers. The accuracy rate on how it is converting is perfect, which is fantastic. And we are now looking at more log types coming in. And as we have more customers onboarding, we'll see more evolution of this as well. All right, so I'm just going to flick back to the presentation if we can. Thank you. So before I get into wrapping it up. So the overall vision that we have for this solution is a little bit different, right? If you see that it's not sitting in the console, it is sitting outside. We have open APIs. We are working, we have a list of technology partners who want to build integrations, whether they're threat intelligence providers or whether they are threat detection providers. Who want to add plugins to it, who want to build modules to it. The other aspect that we are seeing is where the technology partners now want to use our threat models, right? Our deep learning-based detections that we have built in to build the capability that they want to. So I was talking about how security is so fragmented, right? We see it every time. There is a new threat that comes in, and then we see a product that evolves out of it, right? So we don't want more products. If it is just a feature, let's keep it as a feature, right? And let's build a plugin. So this solution will give the ability for our managed service providers who already have value-added services they offer to their customers. They can start building modules to that. So we already have seen some of the early MSSPs that we are working with. They have built vulnerability management modules. They have built the anti-website defacement integrations, DDoS capabilities. They're all adding that as modules onto it. We are seeing threat intelligence provider, I share Recorded Future One. We also have other threat intelligence providers who are building integrations. Now, the great thing about this is that we will keep adding these integrations onto the same interface, right? So the difference will be that for you, rather than buying something from the marketplace and trying to make it fit into your solution, with this, you already have the integration in place. You'll already have the solution. The example that I was showing you earlier for Recorded Future, it is a two-step activation. You basically click on it, you provide your details, you go to the provider website, and you are done. So we want that two-step verification, activation to be done for every integration that we build in. We want the customers who have very unique use cases who want to build and add modules. And right now, they are at the mercy of the vendors who would then come up and show their 2025 roadmap of one single feature that the customer needs now. You can go and simply write that and build the integration with it. We have our open source community, right? They want to build. So we have smarter people sitting in AWS. We have more smarter people sitting in the customers and open source community. We want them to start writing modules. And this is how it evolves as a solution. This is how it will become better in improving the security posture for what we really started at the beginning to help the customers with. So we are open for preview. So we do have, so those who are interested to sign up for a preview, you can scan the QR code that's available over here, and we will reach out to you. It will ask you for some basic information that will help our teams to get back. We are in about 2 to 3 months into the preview where we make the solution available to everyone. Just want to add a clarification. This is not a service. This is not an AWS product or service. This is a solution which sits and runs on top of AWS. So once we have done those 3 months of preview, we're really looking at some customers who want to try it out, give some feedback to us so we can improve the interface, we can improve the prediction rate of our threat detection models, and also help us build more modules and plugins so that we can make them available. So with that, I hope this was useful. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the summit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ankush. Just a reminder, if you would like to submit your feedback, you can do so directly in the app. And if you want the content, please scan your badge at the exit. Our next session will be best practices for migrating your Microsoft workloads to AWS, which will start promptly at 9:45. Thank you.